Welcome to Rocking Finance, the Rock the Street Wall Street podcast. Real stories, real access, real paths into finance. Join us for candid, high-impact conversations with industry leaders sharing the insights, experiences, career pivots, and journeys that can help young women advance through the financial industry with great confidence. Today, I'm your host, Ashley Leftwich, CEO of Rock the Street Wall Street. Now let's rock finance.
Hi, I'm Emily Holm. I'm one of Rock the Street Wall Street's managers who oversees our student learning and career readiness initiatives.
We're delighted to be joined today by Katherine Relle of Headway Capital Partners. You're a champion for early career investors. How exciting. Can you share a bit about your background and how you found your way into the financial industry?
Yes, thank you, Ashley, and great to be here and happy to talk with everyone today. My name is Katherine Relle. I'm a director at Headway Capital Partners. I have done a number of different things throughout my career, though, before landing at Headway. I started at JP Morgan and had a few different roles there as well, but spent the majority of my time at JP Morgan in the private equity group learning about alternative asset management. I was a portfolio manager there. While I was there, I had the opportunity to go to business school and did my MBA at Columbia while also working full time and learned a lot there and decided to get some experience on the general partner side of alternative asset management, having come from the limited partner side. So went to a buyout fund focused on healthcare investing, spent some time there, and then now at another fund focused on broadly investing in the independent sponsor space. So can talk to everyone about limited partners, general partners, alternative asset management, and a number of different things in the financial services industry. And how I got there, I guess, to answer that part of the question, I'd studied political science actually as an undergraduate at Georgetown University. I really got interested in the interplay between government, political science, and big business, and ended up going to the London School of Economics to do a graduate program after undergrad, where I wrote my dissertation on corporate governance and regulation, which pivoted me into the financial services industry. And being at a large firm like JP Morgan Chase, you can learn a lot about all the different offerings within financial services under the one umbrella that is JP Morgan. So spent a lot of my early years of my career just learning and figuring out where I really wanted to be. And that ended up being in investment management within the private equity industry.
Well, it's so great to hear more about your background, Katherine. We know for our students that hearing from professionals about how they got to where they are in their current career is so impactful and powerful. And so that's why this semester, based on demand, we're building out our Coffee Chat program, which provides further mentorship and career guidance to our student community. So, Katherine, I know you've worked closely with students before. So what do you enjoy most about those conversations?
Yeah, definitely. I do a lot of mentoring in my day-to-day, whether it's through my role at work and then also just through my networks and having had a number of different roles, just staying in touch with people that I've come across throughout my career. So I enjoy it a lot. What I enjoy most about working, especially with more early stage career professionals, is that I learn something from you all as well. So, and I think you should approach your networking and sort of early stage development like that. So what can you also bring to the conversation and kind of make it into a two-way conversation? I think a lot of more senior professionals appreciate that and value that as well. So it's a two-way street. For example, I've learned a lot about AI and implementing that at the analyst level or more early stage levels in financial services. I learned about expectations from a recruiting perspective and what recruiting cycles look like and how, the interview processes look and really what is expected of someone at day one when they hit the desk, which is really helpful for me as someone who's a little bit farther removed from that process, having been in financial services for 10 plus years at this point. I also learn a lot about sort of the college curriculum and everything that you all are doing to prepare for roles in the industry. And that helps me as someone who works with, other junior people, because I know where the gaps are and how I can fill those and make an experience better for an entire team. So just from a team management perspective, working with earlier career professionals is really, really helpful. I started working with early career professionals at JP Morgan. Actually, when I was an early career professional, I helped start a group called Next Gen, which sat within our business resource groups there. And that focused on really that analyst to vice president level and how we could provide additional programming for those employees to maximize their experience at the firm and maximize sort of what they could get out of each role. Some of the content that we provided was training for usage of a Bloomberg terminal, for example, language skills. So some people wanted to transfer to investment banking desk that focused on LATAM, for example, but didn't speak Spanish. So how can you maximize your experience there? Provided more soft skills building with, speaker series, et cetera, and people giving their experience, kind of working their way up the corporate ladder. Provided overviews of considerations when thinking through, should I go to business school, and giving people kind of the pros and cons and having sessions like that. So all of this content I found really helpful for myself as an early career professional, and I'm continue to kind of iterate on it as I go through my career to maximize value for junior talent within firms, and built that out at Next Gen at JP Morgan and try to still use some of that same content that I built there, just in various other facets of my career. So I guess one takeaway for everyone from that comment would be, if you are at a place where there is sort of a professional development group or a business resource group, as some might call them, even in college, or you'll have similar groups pop up like that. Really great to take advantage of those groups. And the way I always looked at it was, it costs X amount to get an education, and in America, it's not inexpensive these days. So if someone's willing to give you that content for free, why wouldn't you sit in and take sort of an hour of your day to learn from someone about a crucial business skill that could affect your success in your early career and on a role within financial services?
I am delighted to hear about your experience with Next Gen and really that advice that you're giving to the students on engaging whenever there is those education opportunities. A big goal for us at Rock the Street Wall Street is helping to bridge the classroom learning with career readiness. So my background is in math. I'm drawn to numbers and data and measurable impact, and I am grateful I get to use that every day in my leadership and decision making. From your experience, what's one way students can really make the most out of that mentorship or networking opportunities like coffee chats as they start to identify what drives them?
Definitely. Yeah. So coffee chats are a really great way to informally talk about a role that you might be interested in, or an industry that you might be interested in that you don't have a lot of background in, or even if you do have a lot of background, kind of getting to know more and more people. I think the term coffee chat was popularized in the pandemic when we had more functionality coming out of Zoom, and you'd sit down and have a coffee on Zoom, but you can really do this anywhere. And I guess the original term was maybe informational interview, but taking away that interview portion to make it a little bit less stressful, I think has helped popularize the coffee chat. But I think just being willing to put yourself out there and schedule a coffee chat is sort of the first hurdle. I think some people are afraid to do that because they fear rejection. Maybe they don't think that they have the right contact. I will say, if you don't have the right contact, you will probably quickly learn that and either be averted to the correct contact, or you'll just have to do some more research to find the correct contact. But really, there's no downside to reaching out to someone about a coffee chat. And I can say in my career, I've reached out to people for coffee chats that were very senior, and I had no reason to believe that they would respond to me, but they did, in fact. So people will surprise you on their willingness to meet and learn. But how did I secure those coffee chats, I guess? And I think that's a really important point. Going in with a very clear agenda on what you want to get out of a coffee chat or informational interview is very, very important. A lot of people, especially in the financial services industry, where people are in high pressure careers and and they're very busy and working long days, obviously have to get very good at prioritizing their time. So if you schedule a coffee chat and there's no clear agenda, the person is probably less likely to want to spend that time. They want to know that their time equates to some sort of output. So if you say, I want to just talk about life and, whatever comes to my mind, it's probably going to be less appealing. And even if and I think a lot of people tend to think, I don't want to put pressure on this person to have to answer hard questions. And I don't want to, overstep boundaries, but it's really not the case. In fact, people are less inclined to join a coffee chat if they don't know what the outcome is. So what I recommend to people is have a very clear set of questions that you want answered at that coffee chat. Send them ahead of time so the person knows exactly what you're talking about, and be very open about what the end goal is.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
If this coffee chat is truly just to learn more about the industry, let them know. If the coffee chat is to potentially get a job or learn more about the role because you're interested in a job at that firm, be very clear about that, because then also, if they're not the right person for that, maybe they'll put you in touch with the HR person who is the right person. If the goal of the coffee chat is to learn about a specific, team and see if if you would be a good cultural fit for it. Also really good to note that up front so that they can come with the right talking points around, certain teammates that you might mesh well with, and kind of general culture. So point being, just being very clear will make you get the most out of your coffee chat, but also will help the person prepare and also utilize their time in a valuable way. So I think that is really important. And I think that's often what I see go wrong with coffee chats. So something that I would just tuck in the back of your mind. And then also being very genuine. I know there's a lot of talk around sort of authenticity. And I think that's a little bit about how you present yourself, but also what you're looking to get out of the coffee chat. So going into a coffee chat, pretending like you want to learn about the industry when you actually want to get a job at that firm is just kind of redirecting the conversation, and you come off as a little bit disingenuous. So that's also sort of an exercise in networking, relationship management, trust building. So that's something that I would also recommend to people when they're going into these types of conversations. And then also, lastly, on the topic, I'd say do the work ahead of time. Go through LinkedIn, make sure you know about the person you're meeting with. Have they done any interesting deals lately that would be interesting for you to bring up? Have you noticed them commenting on like Global Female Investment Network or some sort of industry group on LinkedIn that you have a mutual interest in? Bring that up in the conversation. So really show that you have done a little bit of homework so that they feel good about coming into the conversation as well. And spread out who you're talking to. So sometimes people say, I want to get the most senior person on the team because that's the most influential person and also the most impressive person to sit down with. And that all may be true, but that person may be a little bit too far away from where you are in their career to actually say anything meaningful to you, when in fact, maybe the associate on the team or the analyst on the team may be the one that can give you kind of the real deal on what's most relevant to your career stage. And that may actually be the better person to speak with. So, while dream big and do your research and try to get coffee chats with people that are impactful and meaningful to you, also make sure you're spreading a wide net, casting a wide net, and talking to the people that are closer in career stage to you and potentially can help you out more as you make that step, whether it's getting a new role or joining a new industry, et cetera.
Well, that was some excellent advice on how our students can best prepare for future coffee chats. So thank you so much for sharing that. But one thing that you highlighted, which we have heard from our students, is, a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to coffee chats is the biggest hurdle is asking for the coffee chat in the first place. So we know that sometimes students have shared that they hesitate to book one because they're worried they'll say the wrong thing or they don't know enough yet in their education to speak with that individual. So what would you say to encourage them?
Yeah, I think first of all, definitely do your homework, know who you're talking to. Like I said, know what deals they've done, make sure it's obvious you've spent time on their website if they have one. And also, I think if you're clear about what you're trying to get out of the conversation, it should be less of an issue on saying the wrong thing, because ideally you'll be well-versed and prepared in sort of that discussion topic. But yeah, I don't think this should be a scary thing. I think coffee chats and informational interviews in general are for practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And, people generally don't want you to fail and they want you to leave a conversation feeling good about yourself. Also, people generally like hearing other people taking an interest in what they do. So really, if you start from the point of you can only succeed and you can only, learn more, and you're well prepared because you've gone through the steps to make sure that this is a good conversation ahead of time, you'll do completely fine.
Oh, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
The only thing I'll caveat on that, just from a practical perspective, is when talking to industry recruiters or specifically to HR people that are recruiting for a specific role. If you are not ready for those conversations, I would hold off on those just because they are incentivized, obviously, to build pipelines and they take a lot of notes and they do remember their conversations for the purposes specifically of hiring. So those are the ones where I would probably hold off on from an informational perspective. But everything else I think is fair game. And once again, the more you practice, the better you get at it. And people who are more senior in their career are well aware of that. They've been in the situation before, during their early days. So usually if someone agrees to have a coffee chat, they should be on the more encouraging side, I think.
It's a great insight into the mindset our students should be taking into setting up coffee chats. So absolutely. But we are so pleased that you'll be hosting some coffee chats for our students this semester. So without giving too much away, what can students expect from those sessions?
Yeah, definitely. Really happy to be speaking with some of you. I'm really excited to get to know you. And so I will probably have a lot of questions about what drives you, what are your interests, why finance, what kind of sparked your interest to get into the industry. If you're on the fence of maybe finance, but I'm not sure, sort of what are your considerations there, kind of how can we talk through that? So those are some of the things I love learning from you all. And then in terms of what I can help you with, I really love providing resources that you can use in your own time. So a lot of the resources that I recommend and will probably walk you through are platforms like Wall Street Prep, Wall Street Oasis, Financeable, really tangible skills that you can build and sort of how to do that and what kind of cadence can help you build that. How much time should you actually be spending on a platform like Wall Street Prep to learn, financial modeling or other tangible skills that you would need, on day one when you sit down at the desk at an investment bank, for example. So love talking through that kind of stuff. Also like talking about industry groups that can be helpful for you. Obviously, we've already talked about GFIN, but other groups that I like are NYPEN, New York Private Equity Network. There are a number of them kind of aligned with the sub industry within financial services that you would go into. So have been around for a bit, so know which ones to tee up for various people. So I'd often talk about those. And lastly, well, not lastly, but just for the sake of keeping this little teaser short, I will be probably talking a lot about what you read. So I love asking people what you're currently reading and love recommending certain things, what comes into your inbox on a daily basis. That I start off talking about that I really like are execs from an alternative asset management perspective. I like Finimize a lot. There's a lot of newsletters too that I think you can sign up for and just just get in the habit of reading financial news and get in the habit of formulating opinions on investments. And that's sort of what the investment business is all about at the end of the day. So how do you work that muscle on coming to the table with an opinion, with a rationale for why, and sort of building little investment theses kind of in your day-to-day just mindset and being able to talk through that. So that's something that I like to talk to a lot of younger, more junior talent about, because that will make you stand out at the end of the day when you are recruiting and when you are, working alongside your peers in financial services.
Thank you, Katherine. What's a key learning that you'd share with the students whenever they're just starting to imagine themselves in a career of finance?
Yes. So I really like this question and the imagine yourself in a career in finance part specifically, because it reminds me of a quote that I learned at JP Morgan. And it was actually a quote by John Pierpont Morgan. So he says, "Go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you'll be able to see farther." So I like that because I think that finance is it's been an ever evolving industry. You have new kind of asset classes popping up all the time that are of interest to people. So even, finance in general is ever evolving, and you go to a place and then you see maybe this instrument can grow a bit. I mean, that's the genesis of the entire industry. So I think if you take on that kind of ethos from a personal career perspective, it can also be it can make something that's huge and complicated become very manageable. So, you're in college right now, learn the skills you need to get that internship, learn the skills you need to, get that analyst position. And then while you are there, you are going to learn so much more if you keep your mind just intellectually open. And if you talk to the people around you and learn from them. And if you, are a team player and, want to go farther, you will see what is farther. And then you'll be able to see yourself climbing up the ladder or, pivoting to potentially a buy side role from a sell side role, et cetera. And then when you get there, maybe you'll want to start your own firm one day. So, the kind of possibilities are endless, but I do think that's a good way to digest, like I said, a very large amount of data and information into a manageable early career.
I really like that quote and the idea of looking at things in steps, but being okay with the fact that you don't know all the steps that are up ahead, right? To close, what's an action step that our students should take this year to start building their confidence and their credibility as they move into the investment world?
Definitely. I think confidence comes from knowledge in finance, especially. So I think first step is doing research around what types of roles interest you, and then what you actually need from a skills perspective to be successful in those roles, and then starting to master those skills, which you have all the resources to do, especially if you are in a collegiate environment, given that is the place where you go to learn all these skills. So spending time, like I said, on platforms like Wall Street Oasis, Wall Street Prep can help you master those skills. You can also take classes in finance, accounting, et cetera, as well. But make sure you understand the expectations and really take steps to close any gaps you have from a skills and a technical perspective. And I think that will immediately increase confidence and help you know, if you're in the right place, if you like it, do you have a passion for it? And I guess to close on a quote that a mentor of mine once said, he said, "This industry is too hard not to be passionate about." And I like that because, obviously when you're passionate about something, it's fun and it makes it easier. And, uniquely positioned within a very rewarding industry. You can build a very good career in if you just enjoy it. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
I love that quote, and definitely applicable to whatever our students choose to pursue. Passion is so key. I just want to say thank you to Ashley, and especially thank you to Katherine for this conversation today. We're looking forward to hosting our Rock the Street Wall Street coffee chats with you this semester. And to our students, if you're interested in learning more about Rock the Street Wall Street coffee chats, you can find out by registering on our Rock the Street Wall Street Career Center. Thank you for joining the conversation. Visit rockthestreetwallstreet.com to learn more.
Make sure to follow and join us for the next episode. Until next time, let's keep rocking finance.